When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Yeah, for you guys joining in right now, we got Aaron Mauldin joining us with his 7-Up and getting ready for New Year's Eve. And Aaron and I were both at the Close Protection Conference about 4 weeks ago. I caught influenza Bravo. I was stuck to the Palms because, hotel room for 9 days with the flu. And I think Aaron caught whatever.
I was 5 days down. Yeah.
He was foot down. We all got sick. Michelle, my director of operations, got the COVID from something. So she was down for 2 weeks. So it was the conference for the vid, whatever vid you had. And we just had it was a great turnout. A lot of women showed up. Glad to see the ladies. We need you ladies in the industry. And, you have to think about this. You have Middle Eastern culture. They have Sharia law, and they are a big piece of our business. And they believe in, they need women for the women and men for the men. And that's how they do that. I spent most of my career working with royal families. So it's great to see the women coming to the conference because we need you. And we need the new generation to come in too. And not just the royal family units, but you have these corporations that they need woman representation because maybe the principal is a female. And also, most generally, most executive assistants are female as well. Yeah. And that's a big thing I've seen is these EAs to these principals or the chief of staff, they want communication. And I would recommend you can get really good at Microsoft, emails, Word, PowerPoint, because you got to prove why you exist. And it's not just the hard skills anymore. It's the soft skills. And Aaron's hitting this really hard. The soft skills, the writing skills. He's talking about risk assessments, threat assessments. And that needs to be incorporated in the DP schools. Sorry, but you got to know how to write. And sorry, texting. Yeah. If you're texting you think texting is going to be enough to swing your job? Well, you need to start plugging into what Aaron's offering at his training organization. And the industry is changing. Like, we didn't have what you guys have. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have LinkedIn, Facebook, and all this other stuff when we were in the industry. We were like networking like crazy on the job. That was the job interview, being on the job and networking on the job. That's how we got to know each other. And go ahead.
Yeah. So soft skills, right? So I think there's one thing like this shameless plug, January 8th next week. I'm running an EP operations recruiting seminar for Las Vegas. And I'm targeting guys that work nightclub security, casino, and hotel, or even uniform services, because they have one thing that a lot of people in the industry don't, and that's customer service training. So I think one of the best classes I took in Vegas as a driver to be able to have accounts with the Bellagio and Wynn at the time was a 5-star, 5-diamond customer service training. And you had to have that certification before they even allowed you to have access to their high rollers. Because casinos don't want their high rollers to leave the casino. They want them to stay and spend money. But when they demand they want to go, play around a golf at this private golf course and yada, yada, and having that SUV, long story short, with the golf clubs, it was a big thing. But so customer service, right, is a big thing. As you said, dude, my Achilles heel is writing. Like, I'm a jarhead. I write with a green crayon on construction paper, right? So just so you know, like, I have Grammarly. So for you, those that don't write well, Grammarly is like a couple $100 a year. And
there you go.
Everything that I put on there will autocorrect. I can send it to a specialist. They'll rewrite it. So like a lot of that stuff you see on my posts, and in I have over 40 articles on LinkedIn. That's impressive. Spot checked 2 or 3 times because I can barely read and write. So if you're, that's one good thing about like law enforcement is, report writing, but understanding how to communicate with the CEO, which the biggest thing that I learned is CEOs have 10,000 things going on, right? Mm-hmm. And if I get an email from my boss going, Aaron, what is the situation with this trip to India? I give him a full dissertation and he wouldn't even read it or respond. So what I started learning is when I reply, I would add in the subject comment of what I'm replying. And I go, security set, logistic is set. Is there any other concerns? Yada, yada, yada. Like in just 3 bullet points and I started getting better communication from that CEO because he's like, hey, can you get this done? What is my timeline? What is the budget? And who do I have access to, for in this department for those 3? And he'll come out. So short and precise. I always teach people when you get in the car with the principal and it's a Monday, they're probably going to go, hey, Aaron, how was your weekend? Because they're just there they're just wanting to acknowledge that you're there. You don't go, oh, well, it's my birthday or I took the kids to Disneyland. No, it's just like, it was great. Thank you for asking.
Leave it at that.
You responded and you close it. Don't give open-ended response because they feel they need to keep it. So,
good point. Listen, folks, he just gave you a tip right there. that was like $1 million nugget right there he just dropped. So back this up a little bit. And if you're listening to the podcast, rewind this for the last 30 seconds. That was a tip.
And here's another tip too. It's like when you're in the car with the principal, that's the most crucial time for them. Going from the house to the family office, the corporation, a lot of times they're doing emails, but time is money. If you look at a Fortune 70 company, most of the companies that are under Fortune 100 are in the mid billion range, right? So if you have someone that has a corporation that's worth $85 billion, their cost of time is roughly about $17,000 a second. You can do the math, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if it's a minute or a second, but time is money. So if you fuck up an arrival or departure, they're not going to get that 30 minutes back. And the reason why what I focus on is, hey, we have the protection, but the logistics part is if we can streamline their transportation services, they're going to start using us more. And as an example, which you will find out with dignitary protection versus executive protection, most of the time dignitary protection is going to have a dedicated security driver, a guy that's trained, knows his shit, yada, yada. When you're on travel for an EP team, they're most likely going to hire a car service. So you have to do a driver's brief and get him up. But if the only thing that the client's going to see, and this is an example that just happened actually with Keith Ortiz and a few other guys that they supported me on a detail, I went up and picked up, we had the principal, then we had his right-hand man. I picked up the right-hand man. It was the first time they traveled to the United States and they had security. I get in the car and the first thing the guy goes, he goes, Aaron, I appreciate you here, but I don't think this is going to work out. I think you're going to be more of a hindrance than you're going to be more a hindrance to us because we have such a tight schedule. I just said, sir, if you can give me 4 minutes of your time, I can, brief you on the logistical and customer service increments that we're applying right now. Then, so he gave me 4 minutes. I told him, hey, we control vehicles, control timelines, as long as, your EA is communicating on any changes, yada, yada, yada. They've allocated us.
And EA is an executive assistant, folks.
Yeah, so you got the EA mafia or the PA, the personal assistant or the executive assistant, but they're the mafia. And they're the ones that you want to befriend and make your best buddies.
And they can make your life miserable if they don't like you.
Yeah, exactly.
They can have you moved in a split second. You piss them off.
Yes. So long story short, story time with Aaron, but we had 13 movements between Menlo, Palo Alto, and San Francisco in one day. 17
movements in one day.
Or 13. It was 13.
Wow.
So I looked at it.
That's a long day.
So when we arrived, I punched out 2 days early. The EA sends me and I'm like, holy shit. This is anyone who's worked Menlo Park, Palo Alto, dude, it's a nightmare. I'm like, holy shit. So I talked to the EA. I'm like, has this been done before? She's like, no. So I sent a letter to the director. I go, hey, I need to allocate another driver, another vehicle, and another advance because we can't, and we only had one day. So I got this the day prior to that planning. So I had all the schedules, the point of contacts, everything. So I had to ramp up, and I'll give William Petrie a big shout out, and Antonio, those guys in the Bay Area, because we fucking crushed it. We were given the means to make it happen. And when we left, that CEO, he goes, Aaron, I need to take me to the airport because they flew separate. I'm like, sure. We get in the car and he just says, you're wrong. He's like, I was wrong and I apologize. And I'm like, what do you mean, sir? He goes, we've never in the history of 2 years made every appointment on time. And he goes, I wish, this is another shameless plug, he goes, I wish that my corporation had the operational skill set and the ability to execute stuff just flawlessly. So he goes, you're going to be our topic of discussion for moving forward. So it's an educational standpoint, because guys go into EP and they're all frustrated. It's like, oh, we don't got time to do advance, or I don't got a security driver, or I can't do this and this. Well, that's on us as leaders. And that's the biggest takeaway from the Marine Corps is the leadership component. How do we take care of our people on the ground? How do we make sure they have the logistics and resources that they need to conduct it? And then not be scared to go to the EA or to go to the client. And remember, the client and the principal are two different things. The principal is a protectee. The client is the one under the protectee that's hiring you for services. Right. So you don't see him, but you just say, hey, he has a tight schedule. So when we talk about soft skills, go do a Toastmaster course in your local area. Learn to present. I mean, I think I was born with the gift of gab, and I'll never fucking shut up.
You think?
Yeah. So that's what's helped me. So those are those little components, because you can go to the best protection school and be just operationally sound. But if your demeanor, your body language, or your personality doesn't jive on a detail, you're never going to make it. And guys will go like, I don't understand. I meet all the qualifications. And I go, dude, it's a 37-year-old billionaire that wears skinny jeans and fucking t-shirts, and everyone around him is the same age. You know, you're a retired whatever, and you don't fit the part. And I really doubt that you're going to, so they can't say that, right? They can't.
You just gave me a flashback back about, when we were hanging out in Menlo Park there, we had a certain client that we had 30 retired coppers on a campus. Yeah. And they just didn't fit in. And then the biggest gripe from that client, I'm not going to say the client due to non-disclosures and non-compete agreement and all that crap that I signed, but the biggest complaint was these guys had to hold hands and go to chow together for lunch, like in a pack of wolves. They had to go eat together, hold hands. That was the biggest complaint. And they just couldn't fit in. Like, go get lost, go in your little cubicle over there. There's thousands of little cubicles around here at this huge campus, and play on your computer. They couldn't do it. They had to go hang out with each other, 6 of them together. They just want to go separate. And my job was to go break the huddles up. That was my job as DL over there. I'm not going to say the client, but you probably figure out who it is. If you know him, Aaron and I long enough, you know what we did down there. And my job was to break up the huddles and find them and tell them to go hide and put on their headphones and go play on their computer, watch a movie. That's all they had to do, but they couldn't do that. They really struggled with that. And they're, with all due respect, I love our law enforcement community. They're big players in our industry in the physical private security. But I've spent most of my days dealing with drama and making sure they're separated and not holding hands during mealtime.
Yeah, and here's another thing too, where I had a detail in Dallas for a client at a SoCal. So this is actually the detail that I worked on with Byron, like in 2013. I was their lead advance. So I did all
Byron Rogers.
Yeah. So I did all the stadium advances for Byron's team at the time. And, I brought clothes. I'm like, okay, Dallas, blah, blah. Well, I show up, and this is the first time on the detail, and I'm sticking it like a fucking REI catalog, right? So I'm like, shit, and they're all hipsters, SoCal. So day one, like as I'm on that detail and they're going to me, dude, I'm on Amazon. I need fucking checkered Vans. I need skinny jeans. I need Dickie flannels with a little Dickie thing on. So
oh my God.
I basically took like one of each of every one of the principles on this just to fucking blend in, because I was
blend in.
Yeah,
yep.
I was sticking out. So what did I do? Thank God for Amazon Prime, had it ordered straight to the hotel, because a lot of us on the contract, we go in, we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times we don't get that information. So we're stepping on. That's that soft skill aspect of being able to assess immediately. All right, what do I need to do to fit in? How do I look in this glass bubble, right? Because that's one thing about is what we call optics in EP. And I had one day to change it. And then so when we were walking around, I got tattoos and that. So do they. So it's just not, unless they want an overt presence, then that's a different story. But
here's a question, Aaron. Is this based on culture of the country where you're at, on how they dress? Like West Coast, you never see anybody wearing a suit and a tie on the West Coast. You just don't. Especially in the corporate world, they just don't wear that. However, first day working with the royal family, everybody is suited up to the nine. Dress shoes. It's like the interview the first day. And after that, they tell you to go business casual. But I hear East Coast is still they're still struggling with letting that, that white and black thing go, because it's East Coast and DC, and everybody's got to have that, blazer and jeans and look official. The West Coast and the South, they really don't care. But what are you seeing out there?
So this is the way I look at it. If I'm going to Atlanta to work for a banking firm for a trip, I'm wearing khakis, a button up, and a blazer, like Brooks Brothers, right? So I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia. I got the Brooks Brothers look, right? And I hate it.
Brother.
The last time I wore a suit was for dignitary detail, because we're doing embassies consulate, was 2012. I'm actually going to post a picture. So I found a picture of me, and I'm like, this was the last time I wore a suit and a big tactical watch, right? But if you got Atlanta, Georgia, but if you go to the Bay Area, you got the Bay Area casual. What are they wearing? Jeans, maybe a t-shirt, puffy vest.
That's it.
You go up to some of the corporations in Bellevue and Seattle, environments. So guys are wearing a button up with a V-neck sleeveless sweater and a puffy jacket. There's a term going around, but I mean, there's that. But if you go to New York, or let's say your clients, like my buddy right now, is in his principal's in a massive, on a massive court case that's all over the news. So he's suiting up every day, for that, because he's in court. And
be aware of your environment.
100%. So that's, the first thing I always ask is, like, if for all you 1099 contractors out there that are getting in the business, like, don't be scared to ask questions like, hey, what should I wear? What should I pack? Because you could be packing suits, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, we're taking a dolphin tour, a sunset dolphin cruise, and all you have is suits, so just beware. I mean, it's
be prepared.
No questions to ask. And that's one thing about EP or close protection or dignitary protection, whatever, is just know your client, know your surrounding. And with that being, know your principal. With that being said too, for all you new guys, take what you can get. But as we get older, we can be more selective on the clients or the principals that we choose, right?
Another advice I would offer too is, they called me the Mark the Monkey Trunk, the trunk monkey on I-5 when I was in my 30s. And I swear I lived up and down that San Francisco to LA, back and forth. That's where I lived. And I was trained early on from EP school, always have at least one full suit and then one blazer with the nice jeans or slacks to go with that secondary, because you never know when you get the dry cleaners again. And always have a piece. And as soon as you get home, it's now routine. I just do it. But as soon as I get home, I go immediately to the dry cleaner. The next morning, the dry cleaner is dropping, $150 worth of dry cleaning off to get it pressed, because you don't know when you get that call. You got to go wheels down, wheels up somewhere.
Yeah. And so the jeans and the blazer thing, that is one thing that I always teach in schools. If you're traveling on a detail, the minute, well, I'll probably piss a lot of people off saying this.
Oh, here comes the bomb.
You should get a day rate on traveling, right? Like,
yeah,
so the moment
totally.
you leave the door. But with that being said, if you're traveling, and you should be wearing a blazer, jeans, look somewhat presentable, because if you need to hit the ground running, one, you're representing yourself, the company that you're contracted with, and the principal, right? Also, two, I'm spoiled, but flying first class, a lot of times that's the way, in my opinion, the way it should be. But you never know who you're going to sit next to. Like, I've sat next to the VP of FedEx. I've sit next to the president of like Tyson's Chicken, and just having really good conversations. So, but it's, remember, like the second that you start getting paid, you represent that client, you represent that principal, you represent yourself. And also too, generic business cards. You don't want to say executive protection and security specialist, because if you have to pass out a card and you may be a 1099 contractor and you may work for 5 different, in the Bay Area, you may be contracted to work for 5 different companies. But if you just have a card that says Aaron Mauldin, a generic Aaron Mauldin at Gmail in my cell, I can hand that out when I'm doing advances or if I need stuff. And it doesn't show representation, because if I have a card, if I'm working for you, Mark, and then I'm going out handing out my card, so you send me to do advance and I'm handing out my card that says Catalyst. Yeah. That's not representing you. That's pushing me.
Good point.
You're paying me to do a service. So
that's a big cardinal rule in the industry too. Like if you're working on someone's detail, let's say I'm working for XYZ company in LA. It's a royal family. And let's say a company out of the East Coast had that contract. And then all of a sudden they get Mark Ludlow Associates LLC and a business card. They're going to call me. Why are you handing out your business cards? But to Aaron's point, if you have a generic Mark Ludlow, here's my card. Oh, not a big deal, because I'm just representing myself, not a business. So business owners and client contract prime holders of contracts are very sensitive to this, and this gets people fired like the same day over just a little stuff.
And it's, I was a 1099 contractor for 13, 14 years.
Long time.
It was just a hustle. Like
the hustle.
And I'm back
before Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah. And this is, I'm back to that right now with my own company going, hey, who's going on tour? What's going on? What contract-based programs? Because like right now, guys, there's no security in the security industry.
Ooh,
nice. Nice. So unless, even if you're a full-time employee with a company, look at Meta. They laid off how many thousands of employees last 2 months, along with a bunch of other people. So,
hey, Aaron, what did you mean by that? I want to go backtrack a little bit. You said there's no security in the security industry right now. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
Mean that you have to have your backup plan, because as a 1099 contractor,
no job security and security. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, no job security and security. No security and security industry. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's you can be living the high life on a detail 1 minute, and that program gets sunk or done, and you're like, where I'm at. And here's another 1099 tip that I teach. I'll be teaching in my EP seminar. Is if you're a 1099 contractor, and let's say you're getting paid a $500 day rate. So the client is probably doing his $1,000 to $1,200 billable rate. Your pay rate is $500, and you have your own LLC, right? So what I suggest is don't pay yourself $500 a day. Put your money in your business account. Pay yourself additional paid-in capital, and pay yourself $250 a day, right? Because at the end of the year, you're going to owe taxes. And this was a big thing in 2000. This is why I had to take, I'll be honest, I took the job with AS, and Christian was grateful to, give me a position where I got smashed in taxes because I didn't have a CPA. I thought I was fine. And I got hit with a $142,000 IRS tax lien.
Ouch.
It took me 4 years to pay that off. And at that point, I was like, I need something stable. So I thought I knew business over the years, but the tax man will come and get you.
They will. They don't care.
If there's one thing that, have a good CPA, they may charge, if you're busy, they may charge a couple $100 a month, but
it's worth it.
They'll go in and allocate. And also too,
they will.
If you have an LLC, make sure you get a business credit card.
Yeah.
And then when you're on a detail, you allocate all those. Because if you lose a receipt, you can click the drop-down menu, fucking screenshot that shows all that stuff. So when you submit all your invoices, which is the biggest pain in the ass, which for companies, people that have to itemize invoices versus your daily rate, I feel bad for them. So
it's rough.
Yeah.
I've been audited. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then it took me 5 years to 2 years to get out of it. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just running, LLC. And then as soon as I got a director of finance, Tom Wares, he's a former CFO of Goodwill Industries. So he knows finance. He knows how to do profit and loss statements. I'm not good at numbers. I'm a good field guy, but I'm not good at numbers. And guess what I had to do? Find the guy that had my weakness as their strength. And he does my profit and loss every month. He does everything for me. I pay him a little bit of money, but it's an investment in my company. And for those listening, think you're going to make all that money, but like Aaron said, he owed $150,000 in back taxes. Trust me, the IRS will come and find you.
Yeah,
they want to get paid. They will get paid.
And that was a soul crusher, man. That was a bad time of my life with $2,500 a month payments. So
pay quarterly taxes, but talk to your accountant about that.
Yeah,
your accountant will guide you. Find a good accountant, bookkeeper. That's a CPA. It's worth the money, folks. Well, all that my money's going to an accountant. Well, welcome to business 101.
Yeah, and there's another trick too that depending on the state, like in Nevada, where if you make, let's say the old contracting days, or you're on tour. Let's say you're making fucking $700 to $900 a day for 6 months on a program out of the year, right? And that's your net. You still have to pay taxes on that, right? So if you just say, hey, I'm gone 6 months out of the year, I'm paying myself like $15 an hour or $20 an hour with the taxes taken out just to cover the mortgage, all that stuff while I'm gone, and then put everything in the account, then your CPA is going to go, hey, you either need to buy something to offset your taxes. And also too, you're like, well, I only paid myself $70,000 or $50,000 this year to cover my baseline. At the end of the year, you can write yourself a check for $100,000 and only pay 8% tax because it's a bonus, right? At the end of the year. So when you guys start leveling up and things start cranking, these are all the stuff that you need to start thinking about. And another thing too is understanding the business aspect, where I just coached one of my good Marine Corps buddies. He was in Stapleton, scout sniper, young little hardcore motivator. He stumbled on a touring contract, and he's like, well, I'm just going to bring my guys in. I'm like, no, bring your guys in under your company. You bill out your bill rate and pay them in different. And like, he didn't know. He's literally just out of Marine Corps.
Right. Sure.
He got some OJT on the job training from me and a few other guys, and he's fucking crushing it. And I'm like, dude, you're not just taking care of yourself. You're building the business and taking care of your boys. Now, that's another thing too, which crushes companies is, and I'm sure Mark, is the service agreement where, you may run a detail and you're paying dudes out at the end of the month, $80,000 because they're done, they're paid. But you may have to wait 120 days per that service agreement with that corporation to get paid. And if you screw up the invoice, submitting it in,
you're done.
So that's the back.
They're not going to pay the difference. They're not. You send the invoice, their controller or their CFO, hey, you sent the invoice, it's over. we'll pay you this, but we're not going to pay you any extra. So that's why I have Tom doing my invoicing. I have somebody smarter than me doing all that stuff because I don't want to be that guy. Like, I'm just knowing my weakness is math. I'm just not, I don't like it.
Well, what you hit the nail on the head is someone who's smarter than you, right?
Exactly.